I've got to tell you the story about Duke and I was up in Vancouver, Canada. Duke was a compulsive buyer. And we stayed at this Georgia hotel, and right up the street from it was the Hudson Bay Company. They're the biggest, large fur dealers in the world. Duke said, let's go on up there. And I said, okay. So we walked on up there. While I was in the store, Duke decided to buy Pilar fur coat. So he bought her one, then he bought another one, then he bought her another one. Eventually he bought 3 of them. Turned around to me. He said, Danko, why don't you buy Maxine a fur coat? I said, hell, Duke, in Arizona, we don't need no fur coats there. He said, hell, you don't. I said, Duke, we don't. He says, well, I'm going to prove to you that you do. So he goes to the telephone, picks up the phone, he calls Maxine. It's Maxine. How much you weigh? How tall are you? And what's your clothing size? Maxine told him she didn't have any idea what was going on. He goes back and he picks out a fur coat from Maxine. And it was a beaver coat. And he says, here, pay for it. And I paid for it. Well, Maxine's had that coat for a good 20 years. I don't ever remember her wearing it, because the only time that coat's ever been worn is friends of Maxine will go back east or go up north. And Maxine and I very seldom travel to any cold country. We don't like the cold. But that's just one of the other stories. I'll come up with another one with Maxine's diamond ring, which is quite a story. Duke was at home one day and I was staying with him. He says, Danko, he says, I got to go buy a diamond. And I said, what for? He says, oh, I got some people that I've got to buy a diamond for. And I says, fine. So we went to him. We went to this place called Bascom's, a wholesale diamond company. They cut diamonds there and sold them to the wholesalers who sold them to the jewelers. And while I was in there, he picked out 3 or 4 diamonds. I don't remember what he paid for them, didn't care about it. Finally, he said to this fellow by the name of Bascom, he says, you know what? I want you to pick me out a good diamond in there. The guy says, what size you want? He said, what's the biggest one that you got there that's a real top-grade diamond? So he pulled this diamond out. And it was 3.37 carats. And he says, Danko, this is your diamond that you're going to buy from Maxine. Well, I'm a dirty son of a gun. I went ahead and bought it. But this is just the beginning of the story. The man said that he had to mount it. I says, okay. So he says, I'll deliver it to you tomorrow. I said, that's fine. So what Duke done, he got a hold of Michael Wayne. And in the meantime, they got a paste. I don't know if you know what a paste is, but a paste is a diamond that looks like a diamond, but is not a diamond. And they turned around, and he was going to give me that instead of the real diamond, and ship me the diamond later on. But Michael, his son, was such a... He said, Danko, he says, I can't do this to you, but he says, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to have some fun with Duke, my dad, and you tell him that I give you this diamond, but here's both of them. So he gives me both diamonds, and I come on home. About 3 or 4 days later, Duke called up, and he said, Danko, be damn sure now that you insure that diamond. I says, oh, well, I'm in no big rush on it. So about 3 or 4 days later, he called me again. He said, Danko, did you get it insured? I says, no, I didn't, but I will. He said, better get it insured. I says, okay. So I know what he wanted to do. So I picked up the phone 3 or 4 days later, and I called him. I said, Duke, guess what happened? He says, what? I said, that son of a bitch down there, he sold me a goddamn phony diamond. I got to go out there and get my money back. He says, he wouldn't do that. I said, Duke, I went to insure it, and they wouldn't take the insurance on it because they said it was a fake. Of course, he didn't know that I knew that it was, that I had the real diamond and the fake. That story went along for about 2 or 3 weeks, and he was getting a big kick out of it. Finally, he told Mike, he says, Mike, why don't you go ahead and send Danko that real diamond? He says, we're having a lot of fun. He says, Dad, I can't. He says, what do you mean? He says, I lost it. But we had a lot of fun with Duke now because he felt that he was obligated to buy me another diamond. So we turned around and went on for about a month, and he kept calling Michael. Michael, you got to find that. Well, finally, Michael told him what had happened. We had a lot of fun on that.